Okay, good afternoon and welcome back to the 40 over 40 Summit. I'm very excited to welcome Bekah Slider to our stage. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Bekah is a coach, speaker, and ex-good girl turned rule breaker who works with women of influence ready to stop performing and start living fully expressed. Rooted in identity work, she helps leaders shed outdated roles, reclaim their voice, and embody power as presence. Bekah doesn't ask for permission. She dismantles the rules that tell powerful women who they're allowed to be. Yes. Go, Bekah. Stage.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go through my talk, which is a bit of my story and a bit of things that I've been learning on my story. And then I want to end with kind of a somatic identity recoding for you guys, because I know that if you've been on here quite a bit, it's a lot. And at the end of the day, you're not here for just information. You're here for transformation. And so I think that like all of these little bits, the hypnosis that we had earlier, all of these things, that's the embodiment work. Those are the things that are going to take what you're learning and actually get it set in your body, in your nervous system as something that really transforms versus just good information you hear. So I want to start with a question. Have you ever looked at your life, the one that you worked so hard to build, and had this quiet realization that it's good? It's good, right? Good relationships, good career, good reputation. But somewhere inside, there's like this feeling you can't explain, like something in you isn't fully alive. And if you felt that, you also know how confusing that can be. Because often from the outside, it's like, well, everything looks like it should be enough, like it's good enough. You know, other people may be even jealous of your life in different aspects. You know, for a long time, I thought that the problem was that something in my life needed to change, right? Like maybe it's circumstantial if things could just shift. But what I started realizing is that it wasn't my life, it was the identity I built my life around. Because that's what's creating our reality. It was who I was being, it was how I was living in threads of this good girl identity. And here's the ironic part about me. If you asked anyone even years ago whether I was like the good girl, the rule follower, people pleaser, they would laugh at you. In fact, some of them might have been like, Bekah, people pleaser? That woman barely pleases people on purpose. I don't think they would have said that, but I was definitely not known for being the people pleaser. I was always outspoken. I've always been pretty opinionated. I come across independent. I spent most of my life making sure people knew I was not someone who needed approval. You know why? Because I grew up watching what it looked like when a woman lost her voice, when she let go of her power. And I swore I'd never become that. And yet, there were still places in my life, all over touch points, where I was quietly editing myself. I spent many years in a marriage and I became very skilled at keeping the peace. Now, to be clear, again, I had a voice, I shared my opinions, I was willing to rock the boat at times, and I was willing to do it always just enough so that I could tell myself that I was being honest. But there were a lot of moments that things would rise up. I felt frustrated, something I disagreed with, something I wish was different. And I would feel it. And then I would evaluate, is it worth it? And 50% of the time I would swallow it because I didn't want to create an emotional storm in the house. I didn't want to deal with it. That's what I would tell myself. Well, I'm keeping the peace, right? I did what most of us capable women learn how to do. We are really good at managing the environment. I'd smooth things over. I would keep things functioning. I'm managing the kids and the home, blindly supporting my husband's dreams at the time, his goals, never really allowing myself to ask what I wanted, what my dreams were, what my goals were. If I really wanted something, I would speak up. I would probably get my way. But most things didn't feel like I wanted to exhaust my emotional energy to do that. And again, I'm convincing myself that I'm protecting the peace of our home, and especially for the sake of my children. But here's what I didn't realize at the time. I may not have been modeling a woman who just shoved things under the rug and was a doormat, but I was modeling to my children what it looked like to be a woman who isn't fully alive or fully sovereign. And on the outside, that's kind of like, oh, well, yeah, it's being the good wife, being the good mom. But on the inside, something was slowly dying. It's about 18 years into my marriage. I remember sitting on the porch here in my house by myself with the weight of all of it: resentment, exhaustion, the constant editing of myself. And the realization that hit me was actually pretty heartbreaking, because the truth was my life wasn't like falling apart. The truth was I had built a life that was good enough, and I had quietly settled for it. And somewhere along the way, probably the majority of the way, I stopped asking the most important question: is this actually what I want? Settling for the good enough? Settling for good enough is one of the most dangerous places a woman can live. Once I realized that, I had to face something even more confronting. Nobody was forcing me to stay in that life anymore. I was the one continuing to choose it. For a long time, I thought I escaped the good girl identity, because when most people think of the good girl, they picture someone quiet and compliant and agreeable. But what I eventually realized is that it's actually things most women are never taught. The good girl identity actually wears a lot of different masks. It's not just what we think of. So I want to tell you a couple of the ways the good girl identity shows up, because if you're like me, you did not really identify with it, but it was still there running the show. So the first is the pleasing good girl. And a lot of you are familiar with this because this is like kind of classic. You avoid conflict, you're more hypervigilant. Safety, it comes from being liked. It's like if I'm liked and approved of, I feel safe. This version feels bad about wanting more, and the priority is harmony. There's maybe perfection in the career, second guessing decisions, a lack of boundaries, hard time saying no. And then even when she does, feeling guilty after. The next is the performing good girl. This is for the high achieving women. A lot of us live in this. The performing good girl does not necessarily avoid conflict. She leads, she achieves, she becomes impressive, but deep down, her worth is still tied to being approved of. This can show up even in, let's say, the coaching industry, as someone who's a coach and wants to rescue her clients and takes responsibility for their results, right? She doesn't really shrink so much, she proves. And then the last one, my favorite, the rebellious good girl. This is the one who swears she will never be that woman. Outspoken, opinionated, rule breaker, not really afraid of conflict and risk, but most of her actions are tied to keeping an image, and internally, she's still struggling with caring, and then shaming herself for caring, judging herself for caring. Deep down, the undercurrent threads of the good girl identity scream that she's not doing enough, and who she is actually too much. So she's still editing herself in places that feel like the stakes are too high. She presents as if she doesn't care, but deep down, she still does. She's not trying to please everyone anymore, but she's still trying to prove her worth to herself. Because rejecting and shaming an identity is not the same as being free from it. Oof, that was rough to learn. And for the longest time, I used to view the good girl as weak, right? She reminded me of my mother. So I would fight to hide her. I would shame her. I would judge her, which is also why she stayed around so long. What you resist persists. The truth is, the good girl identity deserves to be loved and honored. Do you know how hard she tries? She tries to help us belong, to survive, to feel safe. She has carried us so long. And also, out of protection, she has kept you in a cage. And she is not the one who will set you free. At some point in every woman's life, something has to change. And I want to share a truth with you that took me decades to realize. A phoenix cannot rise while it is still protecting the ashes of who it used to be. The thing about a phoenix is transformation doesn't really happen gradually. It happens through fire. Something must burn so that the new can rise. And when the good girl identity finally burns away, when it alchemizes, because that's what's happening, it's not a true death, it's an alchemy. What rises from the ashes isn't chaos and a life that's on fire. It's the unedited woman. It's the woman who trusts herself, who speaks what is true for her soul, who gets to live in the unapologetic expression of who she is. And she does not negotiate with her own power. She owns it. She doesn't shrink her presence anymore. She knows there's nothing to prove and that her muchness is her magic. She's no longer asking permission to have the life she truly wants. See, the good girl learned how to behave, and she did damn good at it. But the unedited woman, she remembers who the hell she is. I began to realize in my own life, this fire, this burning, this shift into no longer allowing this part of me to drive, that it wouldn't destroy me. It was meant to release me from an identity that had completed its work. Right? Loving that part because it was a chapter, it was a season. It's gotten you to this point. The good girl identity has done her job. She helped you belong and survive, become someone others could depend on. But she was never meant to be the final version of who you are. So the real question isn't, how do I become a different woman? Right? We're not asking that today. We are asking, what parts of the woman I've been are ready to be released? So when the fire starts burning, it's not going to burn everything down at once, but it is going to reveal places that you're editing yourself. Because every identity comes with rules. Rules. Love them. Rules about who you're allowed to be. Rules about what you're allowed to want. Rules about how much truth you can speak. And the good girl identity has some very specific ones. I often found myself softening the blow. So I would say the thing. Oh, I would say the damn thing. But I would soften the blow and tweak what I said to make it sound a little more, professional, palatable, acceptable, respectable. And being raised in a conservative Christian home, it had added more layers than just societal norms to that, right? So I had more layers of what that looked like. The good girl learns to filter her voice through what will keep the peace. And the unedited woman speaks what is true, even if it's uncomfortable. For years, I believed that most of the answers were outside of me about the direction of my life, the things to, big decisions. And I would outsource my knowing and I would outsource my self-trust. And then moving into ministry in my 20s and being a pastor in my 30s deepened that practice. It wasn't until I deconstructed all my beliefs and I started giving myself permission to ask really hard questions that I finally started to build up this deep self-trust and reclaim my sovereignty. The good girl, she looks for permission, right? Before trusting herself. The unedited woman trusts her knowing as valid. And although I wasn't afraid to take up space, I was also very socially aware of what would cross the line of unacceptable. So I would kind of like play to the edge. This is how it would play out, like in my voice, the way I dressed, how I acted, not wanting to come across as too much. I would go to the edge. So it's like, yeah, see, I don't shrink. That's what I would do though, just to the edge and never cross it. The good girl limits her full expression so she doesn't make others uncomfortable. The unedited woman stops apologizing for the space that she naturally occupies because she knows her full expression is what sets others free. And maybe the most confronting shift of all, the good girl suppresses her desires so she can remain acceptable. But the unedited woman understands her aliveness is not something she needs permission for. When I stopped muting and editing all of the areas of my life, that was the moment that life started to actually feel like it finally belonged to me. All right. If you're still with me, shake it out for a minute. Shake it out. Sometimes the people tell me when I talk, it's like, it's so intense, and just like, shake it out, shake it out. Okay. Some of this, or maybe all of it, resonated with you. And as I said in the beginning, I'm not here for just more information. If I can help you transform or move just 1% today, that's what I want to do. And what I say before, it's embodiment. It's in the body, because your nervous system, you will only move to the level of your identity and your nervous system, keeping you safe. So we're going to do a grounding, somatic recoding real quick. Sounds all whatever. Sounds like whatever. You can't get it wrong. Okay. So there's no like, make sure you do this right. You can't get it wrong. If you decide you're going to do it with me, can't get it wrong. All right. So take a minute and get comfortable. If you're driving, that's not going to work. You're going to need to listen to the recording. Okay. If you are not driving though, get cozy, get comfy. Take a nice deep breath. And I want to challenge you when you exhale to like do like a large sigh, like just let it out. You know, you want to. It actually feels really good to verbally express a sigh. So many times we're like, just, just let it out. Okay. I want you to notice the support, and you can close your eyes. It's usually helpful at getting inside the body. I'm going to keep my eyes open, but you can close your eyes. Notice the support that you're sitting on. I want you to just feel into that support, the chair, the bed, whatever it is. Feel it. Let it hold you. Now I want you to notice your feet and imagine that there are roots, like tree roots, coming out of your feet, grounding you into the earth, grounding, deep, 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 just holding you down. Gravity is just taking you down. We're just getting really nice and relaxed, cozy in our body, grounded to the earth. In this space, I want you to think about how the good girl identity still shows up for you. And I don't actually want you to consider the ways it shows up. I just want you to think about the fact that it does show up and notice where the sensation is in your body when you think about operating in this good girl identity. Where does the good girl identity live? A lot of people will notice sensation strong in their stomach or their sternum area, solar plexus, maybe your heart. Maybe for you, it's your throat or your third eye, your head. It doesn't matter. There's no right or wrong. I just want you to notice when you're thinking about that. Where is it? Where can you sense it? There's no judgment of this. Zero judgment. We're just noticing the sensation. And breathe. We're just going to be with that part of us for a moment. And I'm going to make some statements. And you don't have to do anything. You can literally just focus on your breath and the sensation in your body. Truth. What percentage of your identity is still operating from good girl rules? Everywhere that is, let it go. Everywhere you were taught it was safer to concern yourself with other people's expectations and happiness and not prioritize your own. Everything that is, let it go. Truth, everything and everyone you've handed your power over to and your voice to and your sovereignty to because you trusted their knowing and desired their approval more than your own. Let it go. Everywhere, the fear of what it will cost you to choose the identity of the unedited woman. Everything that is, let it go. Breathe. Everywhere you're accommodating doubt and excusing it as being reasonable, let it go. Truth, your desires are safe guidance. Everywhere you've hid, shrunk, or abandoned what you truly want because you don't want to be disappointed or disappoint others. Everything that is, let it go. Everywhere you've been shaming and judging the good girl inside you, how you dislike how she shows up instead of honoring how she tries to help you. Release, let it go. Every part of you resistant to embodying the fullness of your power and your giftings and your skills and your authority because you don't want to come across as prideful or a know-it-all or step on toes. Everything that is, let it go. Everywhere you fragment pieces of yourself in the way you dress, in the way you speak, in the way you act, everything you desire in order to fit in a made-up box of rules. Everywhere you agreed to following these made-up rules. Release, let it go. Truth. What person from your past that you love or hate are you still trying to prove something to, even if they are no longer in your life or on this earth? Everything that is, let it go. Every system, every program, every societal religious conditioning that taught you who you should be, that stripped your sovereignty and autonomy before you even understood what was happening. Everywhere there is pain and heartache and grief and unforgiveness still driving your choices of how you show up. Release, let it go. And everywhere there is a wildfire blazing of this unedited woman inside of you that you've connected with, but you haven't said yes to, not fully because you're still trying to protect the ashes of what's familiar and therefore feel safe. Everything that is, release. Let it go. Breathe. Take a few deep breaths. Wiggle your fingers and toes, and you can open your eyes. The good girl kept you safe, but the unedited woman sets you free. Thank you.
Wow, that's some powerful releases there. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Uh, I think I felt each and every one of those,
Mm,
right? All the ways that we don't even think of.
yeah.
That was powerful. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And I had to kind of giggle because I was like at one point going, preach. And then you said, and when I was a preacher.
Yeah. People can sense they're like, of course you were a preacher.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, great. Yeah. But
Yeah.
love it. Love your energy. And there's so many things you said. If you have any comments or questions, just quickly for Becca, please put them in the chat there. But I love some of the things you said, like, your muchness. Her muchness is her magic. I was like, oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And what parts of the woman I've been are ready to be released? Because
Yeah.
so much more empowering,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And I think it's funny because obviously the title of my talk is like somewhat aggressive, like the death of the good girl. But it's it's aggressive because that is kind of the approach we have to it. And also it's really a metamorphosis. It's really an alchemy. It's not this idea of like shame her, judge her, kill her off,
Yeah,
like no,
totally.
that's not what that's about at all. Like
Yeah,
there's so much honoring of the version of you that got you this far, or even the version of you
yeah.
that got you 20 years ago. You see I'm so always grateful for that version of me. And for so long, I was so quick to shame and judge, like, why didn't I know more?
Totally.
And it was
Yeah,
like, that
exactly.
keeps
That
that.
shaming, it just keeps it in the spin cycle.
Yeah, it really does. And the unedited woman, like that version of us, it's like the next layer, it's like the next level. But again, the death is like it's an alchemy, it's a rising. The phoenix burns and then it rises. So it's like this beautiful experience that we
Yeah.
honor and really and then I also want to say too, because it's not that I've stepped into this now and it's like, oh, I don't ever have to deal with like good girl identity thoughts anymore or feelings or
Yeah.
no, like there are still cycles of things that go through. I'm now just the identity I've taken on is the one who's still witnessing, like, oh, there's some threads there of like wanting to go back to the old. It's kind of like when you get your braces off and your teeth are straight. But if you don't continue to wear the retainer, like they're going to want to go back because they've been there for so long.
Oh,
It's not
yeah.
because you didn't straighten them. It's not because the work
Yeah.
wasn't done. It's just because
Yes.
that is so much more familiar than where you're at now. So it's like, okay,
Totally.
so I just need to put my retainer back. I just need remind
Yeah.
myself who the F I am. Like, and then thank you for showing me. Somebody else said this, was thanking the doubt on one of the last speaking, like one of the last speakers was saying that, thanking the
Yeah.
doubt. Like, yeah, thank that version of us that brings that up. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. So
Yeah.
what feels good then? And if I'm standing in my like, unedited version and I'm at the end of my life, I like to say, like, what's the version of me on my deathbed going to be happy about? Because the number one regret of the dying is people did not have the courage to live true
Oh,
to
so true.
themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
The time is
literally,
now.
yeah. It's like
Absolutely.
expectations of everyone else. And that is true to the good girl identity, right?
Yeah.
And it is. And
Yeah.
that's okay. We don't have to judge that, but we also have to ask confronting questions to ourselves about what really matters.
100%.
And
Yeah.
and a lot of women, I'll say this too, a lot of women who are over 40, we are in places where a lot of us have children. So we have been thinking about how our actions and who we are impacts our children. And what I had to get to the point was realizing, what do I want most for my children? I want them to live a life true to themselves. What am I actually modeling then?
Yeah.
What am I modeling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Um, I just lost my screen here. So I'm going to ask you to, oh, I see what happened. To talk just briefly, we're out of time, but your free gift.
Yeah. So my free gift is actually my new masterclass that I just dropped. It's called Unedited Power. So I hit a lot on power, on pleasure, on visibility, and on voice. But power, owning like your knowing, the certainty, right? This sovereignty inside of you, I feel like is really a foundation. A lot of us want to go in, oh, I'm going to speak my truth first, or I'm going to try to focus on visibility, or I'm going to try to focus on, the other things. But if we can focus on like our sovereignty of the divine being inside of us and owning that part first, it really ends up being the tree trunk, and then the branches come out of that. So it's a very animated masterclass.
Ah, right
I like
on.
to do personas and like personify different things. So I like,
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
So
Yeah.
that is my freebie. And then did you want
Awesome.
my VIP
Yeah. Your
as well?
VIP gift is the unedited woman breakthrough call.
Yeah, breakthrough call, 30-minute breakthrough call with me. It's like a $500 value. And I will be we can do an audit of like where you're at and then actual takeaways of things that you can do, shifts that you can make. Like there's going to be, I believe I can absolutely get you some results and some shifts in 30 minutes. Yeah. So,
Perfect. Love it. Take advantage of that VIP upgrade. Link is there. The link for the free gift, the unedited power masterclass is there. When you upgrade to VIP, just $47 Canadian, you're going to get all these recordings, all these incredible gifts. We've had so many incredible ones this morning, and 44 more because we got so many speakers. And then as well, your name in the draw to win $500 cash spend with that speaker of your choice, maybe Becca. Don't you love her energy? I just have this feeling you're going to support us in standing into our empowered energy. So I love that. Thank you, Becca. Enjoyed
yeah.
this, your session.
Thank you.
And
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for all the work you put into this.
oh,
Appreciate
you're
it.
welcome. And thank you for co-creating an amazing day with us.
Thank you.